On today's Locked On Predators, we're going to talk about two youth, one veteran, and how all three impact the Nashville Predators.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off the Hallelujah, You Made It to Friday episode, shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Joakim Kemell. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host with the Hockey News.
Today, we are going to be checking in on two young players and one very well-seasoned veteran. This week, Joakim Kemell and Matthew Wood participated in the NHLPA's Rookie Showcase in Virginia. We're going to hear from Matthew Wood on his takeaways from his time in the NHL at the end of last season. We're going to talk about what we expect to see from Joakim Kemell next week at the Rookie Showcase. We're also going to update you on a big change for one seasoned veteran. Friends, it is also Look Forward Friday. We're going to share what we are looking forward to as the weekend approaches. All right, Emma, before we kick anything off, let's just get to what is very important to our listeners. How is Minka doing today? Upper management.
Upper management is doing better today. She got some medicine that's working its magic, and I gave her today off just, to let her rest a little bit till she's back up to full speed. But she is doing much better today. Thank you for asking.
Okay, good. There were some listeners that were concerned. So we want to make sure we give an update on Emma's dog, Minka, who also serves as upper management and keeps us in line. It's a whole job, friends. It's a whole job.
Is.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Emma, we're going to be talking about a couple of young guys and one more seasoned fella, but we're going to kick it off with these young players. This week, the NHLPA had their rookie showcase. It is in partnership with Upper Deck, who does hockey cards. So it was great. They got to play some hockey. They got to pose for some hockey cards, which I have to tell you, I think would be a blast. I don't know why we don't have hockey media cards, but maybe in our swag store.
They would have all of our stats on the back,
Yes.
like hockey cards too.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, number of episodes or
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
Okay. We're gonna put a pin in that, friends. Check out the Invisible Swag store for that. Matthew Wood and Joakim Kemell were invited to participate in this for the Nashville Predators. And so they headed out that way, participated in that event, and then they are headed to Nashville, getting ready for practice here before they head off with the rest of the rookies for the prospect tournament in Florida. But we've touched on Matthew Wood. We have a very small sample size of NHL time with Matthew Wood. Of course, he played 6 games for Nashville at the end of last season. He averaged about 11:25 time on ice in those 6 games. It was a small sample size, but a very big opportunity for Matthew Wood. So when you look back on those games, Emma, what did you notice about Wood in his very short stint in the NHL?
I thought he looked pretty comfortable. Now, he wasn't out there. Obviously, he wasn't lighting up the score sheet. But then again, who among us who was last year? But at the same time, it's not like, I feel like a lot of times you see younger players, their first game, it's like, you don't even need to tell me who the rookie is. I'll pick him out.
Yeah.
But you didn't really feel that way with Wood. I felt like he didn't do anything that necessarily stood out, good or bad, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I think that, the thing that I got from him when we talked to him at development camp this summer, when we asked him about what was your takeaway from it? Like, what did you think? And he was like, I didn't realize how hard it is to score. It is really hard to score at this level. And so we're seeing, I would just say that to anyone who's like, oh, he's our first round pick. He came up to the NHL, didn't even score a goal. Well, first of all, there's more than one way to impact a game. But second of all, I mean, NHL, it's just a reminder that NHL goaltending truly is another level, which is why I do think that Matthew Wood could benefit greatly from some more time in the AHL before he comes back to Nashville, just to get used to, higher caliber goaltending.
Yeah. I love what you're talking about there, because the thing that stood out to me about Matthew Wood, and it's very funny, when you hear the conversations that he had about his experience, the one thing that I loved was that he was not afraid to shoot the puck. And I think sometimes when you're making your NHL debut, when you are relatively new, you are hesitant to do that at the NHL level when you are new there. But he had 8 shots on goal in 6 games. And I am here for somebody who has just enough confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to try to shoot. Now, again, is a very tricky thing to score on a goaltender. He is not wrong in the NHL. But I love that Wood was not hesitant to shoot in these games, and he had some great chances. I will tell you, I went back through and rewatched the highlights of his 6 games to just sort of track him on the ice. First thing, just take a little squirrel trail with me. I had just almost a physical reaction to watching the Predators play hockey. Just like I felt a little clenchy.
You're like, oh, that's some trauma that we haven't fully worked through yet.
I know. I'm like, we have done the postmortem. Why am I still so twitchy? I really did, though, watching those games. I was like, oh. Friends, please pass the sage, because it was, it really was a little bit jarring to rewatch and to feel again just almost that oh my Lord, not still. It's still happening, and we're winding down. Yeah.
You're doing the Lord's work by voluntarily going back and watching that, because that's putting yourself through it.
I know.
I feel like I've had the benefit of time away to the point where I can be like, yes, okay, that was bad. That was bad. But hey, new year. But I feel like just going back and watching it, it would be like, oh no, too soon. It was too soon.
I think I was trying that exposure therapy where, like, if you're afraid of spiders, but you lay in, a bunch of spiders, maybe you get over it. You don't.
Yeah.
Friends. So we need like a whole new season. And that's something we're going to tackle next week. How do we get a whole new season, a whole different vibe? But I loved going back and watching those games specifically to watch Matthew Wood, because there are a couple things that I noticed about him, like you said, kind of positive and negative, but I loved that he was shooting his shot. He was keeping up with the pace of the game. And I really feel like, stepping back and eye testing it, you could see him getting a little bit more comfortable shift to shift. And that's what you want to see from somebody who is dipping his toe in that water. Coming up, we're going to hear from Matthew Wood himself about his takeaways from last season and what he has been working on to get ready for this season. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. It is here. The NFL season has kicked off, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether it is player props, whether you want to build a same-game parlay, or even jump in live as the action unfolds. It's going to make every game even more interesting, whether you are watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Emma, we mentioned that Matthew Wood and Joakim Kemell were at this rookie showcase, and a great friend of the show, Russ Cohen, was there covering the prospects there, and got a chance to talk to Matthew Wood and ask him some questions about his time in the NHL and also what he was doing in his offseason. So this is what Matthew Wood had to say this week.
So what's the event been like for you?
It's been lots of fun. It's been, great to, see everyone, and it's cool, obviously, grow up collecting hockey cards, and it's a great event.
What tips did you pick up from the coaching staff from playing last year at Nashville?
I picked up a lot of things, tried to, learn as much as I could in my short time there, and, all the guys on the team were a lot of help as well, and, just trying to, improve on all aspects of my game over the summer, and come into camp, try to do my best.
What about getting stronger? Did you work on that this summer?
Yes, definitely worked on a lot of things, and that's one of them, and, I feel a lot stronger and a lot more confident this year, and I'm excited.
I love that he talked about getting stronger, because as I went back and rewatched some of these games where he was playing, I was like, "Ooh, little boy's too lean." For the NHL level, like we gotta pack some meat on those Matthew Wood bones, because he really was a little bit lean, and I think that is one of the big surprises for a lot of the players bumping up to the NHL level, is that it is very physical, and the boys are big and very strong. So I love that he was working on that this offseason. Thank you, Matthew Wood.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things that you often hear with young players like coming into the NHL, as one of the biggest things that they need to work on is, putting on weight, bulking up, and not just like, oh, getting bigger, but like actually working on, it's not even about just being bigger. It's about being stronger and being able to defend yourself and being able to move other guys off of pucks and being able to do something with that size and that strength. And it's something that you hear like a lot of players, young players, as soon as they come in to the system, whether it's in development camp or rookie camp or whatever, that they always talk about meeting with the nutritionist, meeting with the strength coach, and, like getting a whole plan there, because that's really at the basis of it. That's where it starts.
Yeah. God bless Kalen Lind and his 5 burgers per sitting, trying to get bigger.
And he's still just,
yeah. Yeah. Oh, Kalen Lind, to be you. You had mentioned this earlier about Matthew Wood, and I think it's worth circling back to. You'd said, this is a player who I think will benefit from more time in the AHL. And even though we saw him, like we said, for 6 games in the NHL, I am with you. There are a lot of other players that I think maybe are more ready, even though they haven't played 6 games in the NHL. But I am curious to see how he looks in training camp against some of these other players. I think it's going to be really interesting to see the difference between the end of last season, where he's at now, as compared to players who have been playing at the AHL level. For instance, a guy like Joakim Kemell. Emma, he was at this showcase as well. Let me tell you, they posted some pictures online, and Kimmel was like all about posing for his trading cards. And when Emma and I do ours, we're going to pose like Joakim Kemell, because he's got it down. Of course, he played a couple of games in the NHL last season, but this is a guy that everybody seems to think is going to make the opening night roster. Do you think that's how it's going to go down, Emma?
Well, in the spirit of everything that we talk about here at Locked On Predators, sure. I don't know. It's one of those that I've said this before, I don't see it as the foregone conclusion that a lot of people seem to think. And again, it's mostly the national media, which I understand because of the Predators, prospects who are kind of on that level where they could be cracking the roster this year. Like, he is the name everybody knows. He was the first round pick that, kind of surprisingly fell to Nashville, where they got him. And it was a steal for them. And so that's the name people know. He's got that lethal shot, really exciting prospect. So I get it from a national standpoint. However, I keep coming back to, if you put him on the opening night roster this year, where do you put him? Because right now your forward group is pretty much set. I mean, you've got obviously Forsberg, O'Reilly, Stamkos, Marchessault, Bunting, like Evangelista, Svechkov, Holla, McCarron, and Smith are going to go on the fourth line. But everyone else is kind of like, they're kind of set in the top 9 there. So the only place you really have space would be on McCarron's other wing on the fourth line. And is that really where you want to put Joakim Kemell on your fourth line with Michael McCarron and Cole Smith? And I mean, no disrespect to those guys, but that's not where you're going to maximize that's not where you're going to get the best version of Joakim Kemell. So that's why I keep coming back to, I think it makes a lot more sense on opening night to have an Ozzy Weisblatt, for example. I think he's a much better fit for that role, because unless you're planning on moving, like, you know, Jonathan Marchessault to the fourth line, like it doesn't really make any sense to have Kemell there. So I still think we see him in the NHL again this year for sure. And it could happen very quickly if they get off to another start like they did last year. But I just, it could happen. Maybe he blows us away at camp, but I don't think it's the sure thing that a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, and it really has been presented as this is his turn. This is his time. And I'm certainly not arguing that that could be the case. We'll get to see him in training camp. That could very well be the case. But 2 things come to mind in this discussion. One, you hit on this. You saw the difference in Luke Evangelista's game when he was playing bottom 6 minutes and when he got an opportunity to play with high skill players that really complemented his style of game. That's a Joakim Kemell situation. His style of play is going to be highlighted with players who have a similar style, skill set, and we saw a difference in Evangelista. And I think that could be a trap to fall into with Kemell on the fourth line. So that's something I worry about. The other thing is, and you said it, girl, this team needs a hot start. Do you know who is going to make the opening night roster? The best freaking players in training camp. They cannot afford to be like, you done your time. We're going to give you the spot because you have done there is going to be none of that, because the Nashville Predators have to come out and win games. And so this is not, like you said, the national media is like, he's the next man up. There is no next man up at this training camp. There is only who is the best player. And here's what I will say. Hear me when I say Kemell very well may be that best player for the opening night roster. We're going to have to see that in training camp. When you look at, and this, we're not going to know till we get to training camp, but who is going to be his biggest competition for earning that spot? You mentioned Ozzy Weisblatt kind of being that fourth line guy. I kind of lean towards that myself, unless we see something different. But is there another young player you think, they may be more ready?
I don't know that there's anyone who I think is more ready. Quite honestly. I mean, otherwise, like I said, Weisblatt, I think, makes the most sense in that role. Maybe Matthew Wood comes in, has a great camp. He gets it. Like, I don't know. I mean, heck, Brady Martin could get it. I mean, it could be any number of guys, but I just think if we're being realistic about it, they're really, everybody looks that they like training camp and it's exciting because there's these roster battles and who's going to get the spot and whatever. The thing with Nashville this year is there really aren't any battles to be fought. They're all
internal.
They're all kind of settled. Yes, we all have our own battles that we deal with internally, the Predators included, but it's really just one spot that's up for grabs. So it can be tempting for people to get out their little drama cauldrons and start stirring and kind of making a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be, only because it's the only spot left. And it's like this intense battle. You know what? Maybe it will be an intense battle. Maybe Weisblatt, Wood, and Kemell all show up and absolutely knock our socks off at training camp. Then that's a different conversation. But you know what? The decision might kind of make itself depending on what we see. So I don't know. I just think that if it were me, if it were up to me, it would go to Weisblatt. I think he makes the most sense in that role that they would need him in. But it's not up to me. So
yeah. And I know Nashville needs goal scoring. And when you look at Ozzy Weisblatt and you look at Joakim Kemell, Kemmel's game is more goal scoring. But you have to have him set up in the right place for that. Will Nashville be able to figure out what that is and unlock that in training camp? That is going to be something we are going to keep our eyes on. That's going to be one of the interesting parts of camp is how that one spot sorts out. Coming up, we have talked about 2 young players. It is time to talk about the seasoned veteran. Emma, we talk about these young players. We've talked about their time in the AHL. Joakim Kemell, I believe, has played like 146 games in the AHL. One of the people who has probably influenced him the most in the AHL is Cal O'Reilly, the other O'Reilly, the OG O'Reilly, if we're going chronologically, quite frankly. I don't know if you all know that. He's the older brother of course, Ryan O'Reilly. Cal O'Reilly is an AHL. He's basically a legend in the AHL when it comes to points and games played, and he's just incredible. But he has recently announced that he is headed to Switzerland. He is on a short-term contract to play with the SCL Tigers, and he's going to play with them for a couple of months, and then there is the option to extend that contract. And I love this for Cal O'Reilly. And it makes a ton of sense for the Milwaukee Admirals because they need to get these young players ice time. But it's a little bit hard to see Cal O'Reilly step away from the AHL and step away from the Milwaukee Admirals, Emma. I'm having a moment about this.
Yeah, I mean, he's meant so much to the organization as a whole. I mean, this was the Predators drafted him originally. And he had played for the Admirals before, ended up going and, kind of popping around the league, but of course came back to play for the Admirals for the last few years, came back at the same time that his brother signed with Nashville in free agency. And so that was, a fun, wholesome, kind of full circle thing for him. But he ended up being like, I will admit, that was kind of my thinking when he came back to Milwaukee. It was like, oh, well, that's a nice story. It's like, well, that's nice. But it's like, how impactful is he really going to be? But he really is, like, if you look at, I mean, an AHL legend, like holds so many records, like you said, points and games played and all of that. And he is very much, now I will fully admit that I have not spent as much time around him as I have around Ryan O'Reilly, but from everything I've heard, cut from the same cloth.
Yes.
Like in terms of their work ethic
Yes.
and the whole lead by example thing. I mean, that is, because sometimes you get 2 siblings who like could not be more opposite. And it's like you wouldn't even guess that they knew each other. But like these 2 guys, very much from everything I've heard, same work ethic, really strong leadership skills. They lead by example. They work really hard. And so I do kind of feel like Cal sort of played the role in the Milwaukee locker room that Ryan plays in the Nashville locker room, but it's all the more important in Milwaukee because those are young players just getting their first taste of professional hockey. And what better example to learn from? What better guy to have in the locker room, to kind of follow along. So I think it was very, like you said, very beneficial to those young players to have him there. But at the same time, you do need to get the young players some playing time. And, it's kind of like it's time to move on. If you love something, you got to let it go. And I think that's probably where we're at with Cal O'Reilly. Plus, I mean, he's getting up there in age too. What is he, 37?
I think he's 38.
38. Yeah. So like
38.
I mean, the whole 2-month contract with the option to extend. I mean, the AHL doesn't do anything like that. So I'm like, maybe that's just, it's better for him too, just to kind of test the waters, see how the body's feeling after a few months. But yeah, I think that he'll definitely be missed in Milwaukee. But it's kind of like, all right, he's laid the foundation. Now it's time for the young sprouts to carry the torch.
Yeah. I love when we see some of these younger players. And one of the questions that we often talk with them about is, who has influenced you? And Cal O'Reilly, when you ask them about their time in Milwaukee, that is a name that always comes up. I love what you said. He is the Ryan in the AHL. The other story that I love about Cal O'Reilly, and I think this really speaks to who he is as an athlete. Spencer Stasny recently did that interview with the 32 Thoughts podcast, and he talked about when the Admirals were eliminated from the postseason and looking over and seeing just how devastated Cal O'Reilly was. Like, this is a guy who holds all these records, who has done all this amazing thing, who has had this great career, and he still cares like that. Man, that's a good person to have.
It is. Although hopefully he's a little nicer to himself than Ryan is after a loss. I mean, I worry.
It's
like after they're eliminated, like, the Admirals are eliminated from the playoffs and Cal O'Reilly's setting himself on fire in the locker room. Like, that's what I worry about with Ryan. So,
we have to do little welfare checks on these Orion boys because we get nervous. Yeah. I love that. I would love to see, this is one of those ones where I would love to see Cal O'Reilly eventually circle back and become a part of the organization, whether in Milwaukee, or player development or whatever, because I think, like Mark Borowiecki, this is somebody who has a ton of wisdom to still pass on. But like you said, opportunity on the ice needs to go to some of these younger players. So we wish Cal O'Reilly, the OG O'Reilly, we wish him the very best in Switzerland. Have a Toblerone while you're there.
Yeah.
You've earned it. He probably doesn't eat chocolate. He's probably like dialed in nutritionally.
The land of Roman Yossi. Yeah. Have a Toblerone, a Ricola. I don't know what else. Peas. I don't know what else is Swiss.
Yeah.
But fun fact, I don't know if it's really fun, just a fact about the O'Reillys. Since we're talking about food, they're both vegetarian.
Are they really? I didn't know that.
Yes, they are.
Interesting.
Yep.
I wonder if it's because they don't have teeth to chew meat or if it's a nutritional choice. I don't judge either way. Like, you.
Yeah, no, I haven't pressed them on it or asked them about it before, but it's something I learned while I was working with the team, or working for the team rather, and they got their own special meals on the flights because they are vegetarian.
Interesting. Ooh, all right. We're gonna have to keep our eye out on that and
get
to the bottom of that.
Toblerone, Swiss cheese, all good to go. So
there you go. A Ricola.
Yeah.
No meat in that.
Nope.
Oh, Emma, we have made it through another week. It is Friday, and it is time for us to share our Look Forward Friday thing. What is something on this Friday that you are looking forward to? Because, friends, we have been in the postmortem. We have been looking to the past. And as somebody who watched some of the past, we really need to look forward. So, Emma, what are you looking forward to on this Friday?
Well, I might quickly find myself in the other camp where I'm like, okay, no, I'm ready for this to be over now. But I'm excited for NFL football to be back.
Come on.
It started Thursday night, obviously, but my team, who I'm a little nervous about, is playing on Sunday. So that's why I said we might be very quickly back in the okay, nope, I'm ready to look forward to something else now. Yeah. But we'll see. I'm excited. I can't get in to the NFL preseason. I just can't. Like, people
Yeah.
are asking me, like, have you been watching the preseason? I'm like, no, because all the guys who play in the preseason won't even make the team. So I'm like,
Yeah.
why are we doing this? So
Yep.
we'll see. But that is what I'm looking forward to. I'm in 2 fantasy football leagues this year.
I love that.
So
What are your
yeah.
team names?
So
Please
see,
tell me it's not Emma's fantasy football team.
no, but
Okay.
they're both inside jokes with the groups that
Okay.
respective groups that it's like,
Mhm.
if I say it on here, like, it's not clever or witty or funny to anyone
Okay.
who doesn't know the joke.
Yeah. I
But
get it. I
it's
get it.
not just like Emma's awesome team. Like, no.
What are people doing when we aren't actually our family usually does fantasy football, but we aren't able to do it this year for a couple reasons. But I always pick something that has "an" in it. So like one year my team name was like anaphylactic shock. And one year it was like antibiotics kill bacteria. And like I always do like total
Yeah.
annihilation. Like that's how I usually do my names.
There
So
you go. See, you can't do
yeah.
that so much with Emma.
Yeah, it's not the same, is it?
Yeah,
It's
no,
not the
but I mean,
same.
mine are they're good. They're funny to the people. They're appreciated by the people in the leagues. Outside of which, though, probably
Yeah.
wouldn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
they're
Who
good.
was your first draft? Like, who did you draft first? Look at me getting all up in your business about this.
So in my one league, I think I drafted Justin Jefferson first,
Come on, girl.
and then in my other league, Saquon Barkley.
You
So
know,
I
you
know.
know,
I knew you would like that one.
you know that Saquon is just my favorite. I would
Yes.
bake Saquon cookies in a
Yes.
heartbeat because, he's a
Although,
former Penn State boy.
in fairness, who would you not bake cookies? Like, you would
Oh,
have
there's
to.
a couple.
I mean, if they're not in your invisible backpack of
Okay.
grudges.
Well,
Yeah,
there's that. Yeah.
yeah,
Food is love, friends. Food is love.
that's
Yeah.
true.
I am with you. I'm really looking forward to football. I will tell you this, one of the things I love best this time of year is, and it's not going to make sense to young people, but go with me on this journey. So many, many years ago, many moons ago, when Anne was a young sprout, Hank Williams Jr. sang the Monday Night Football song. And so I was trying to help my parents be cool, which is, I don't know, why do we even do that? But Monday Night Football came on. I was at home with my mom and dad. I think I was like a senior in high school. And I said, Mom, who is singing that song? You know who sings the Monday Night Football song? And she said, I do. And I said, who is it? And she said, Sammy Davis Jr. And I thought, those couldn't be two more different people. And so we started this thing where every Monday night, and I'm telling you, this went on for like a decade. On Monday night, when the Monday Night Football song comes on, even when Hank Williams Jr. no longer was singing it and it was Carrie Underwood, my mom would call me or I would call her and we would just pick up and go, Hank Williams Jr. and hang up. And so it's just this great tradition. She has a dancing Hank Williams Jr. that sings the Monday Night Football song that she puts out when football season starts. So I'm just excited about that.
Amazing.
Downside of that game is that one time my therapist called right at kickoff or right when the song came on, and I picked it up and said, Hank Williams Jr. and hung up on my therapist. That was a session the next time we saw each other.
I mean, there are worse things, I
There are
guess,
worse
to
things.
say to your therapist. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, but I love, my family's always loved football. My grandmother loved football. And so just football is fun little weird Hank Williams Jr. traditions like that.
See, for me, NFL football, not college, because
Mhm.
I did in college, but NFL, it's like the only sport, like major sport that I care about that I have never worked in. I've
Yeah.
never covered the NFL. I've never worked in the NFL in any capacity. So it's the one major sport where I get to still really be a fan and I
Yes.
get to still have a favorite team. I haven't seen behind the curtain and I don't
Yes.
want to. I'm like, let me
Yes.
be a fan and enjoy this. So football's like, that's NFL football. It's like my one, it's like my one thing that I
That's
have
your
left.
magic space where you just get to
Yeah.
be in the magic.
Yeah. That's
I
my
love
space.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Magic Space. Guess what, friends? We're back to 5 days a week next week if you want to talk about Magic Space. We are. We've got the rookies coming into town. We have the prospect tournament going on next weekend. And friends, after that, it is training camp. So we are back to 5 days a week, and heaven knows we have a lot to talk about. Next week, we are going to be kicking off a series talking about the top storylines headed into training camp. After last year, you all, there are plenty to choose from. So we're going to talk about those and what we hope to see from Nashville heading into the regular season. I really can't tell you how much I don't want to watch last year again. So we're going to tell you how we think that can maybe not happen. And the answer may be cover your eyes. We don't, we'll try to find some better solutions, but keep that one in your back pocket, friends.
Might need
Emma, we might need it. On this Friday, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me watching football this weekend.
On,
you can
girl.
also find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me also watching football this weekend. I'm so excited. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio. You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice as well. Friends, that is going to do it for this Friday edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are going to be back Monday with an all new episode. We hope you guys have a great weekend.